Welcome to our channel, Beyond Midnight. Tonight's documentary is about vanished kingdoms of the ancient world. In the vast whispering winds of history, only shadows remain of many once great civilizations, kingdoms that rose like luminous stars, only to dim and fade into obscurity, swallowed by the relentless march of time. The story of these vanished kingdoms is a tapestry, woven with ambition, betrayal, conquest, and sometimes inexplicable silence. Among them stands the mysterious kingdom of Ebla, an ancient city buried beneath the sands of modern Syria. Its grand archives, unearthed in the 1970s, whisper tales of a civilization that once wielded influence over the Levant, connecting Mesopotamia with the Mediterranean through a labyrinth of diplomacy and trade. But as the Akkadian Empire expanded and armies clashed, Ebla's once vibrant culture was lost, leaving behind only clay tablets filled with cuneiform secrets, an echo of a vanished empire that historians decipher in hushed reverence. Venture further back in time, and before the waters of the Nile forged the backbone of the Egyptian civilization, there existed the mysterious land of Kush, a kingdom that at its zenith rivaled even the grandeur of Egypt. Its rulers, the Black Pharaohs, built towering pyramids in Meroe, defying the sands and the centuries, marking their dominion on the tapestry of history. Yet the rise of Aksum, a kingdom within the highlands of modern Ethiopia, cast a shadow over Kush. It was a place of contrasting riches, gold, frankincense, and emeralds, whose traders reached as far as India, whose kings once minted coins bearing the image of a lion, symbols of power and resilience. But Aksum's decline came swiftly, absorbed into the shadows of history. Its monumental obelisks toppled, its stories swallowed by the shifting winds of conquest and climate change. Crossing oceans and centuries, the mythic realm of the Minoans whispers from the ruins of Knossos, a civilization that once reconsidered the very notion of palace, art, and myth. Their frescoes tell stories of bull leapers and sea gods, vibrant with color and life. Yet a mysterious catastrophe, perhaps a volcanic eruption on the island of Thera, erased their empire in a single cataclysmic breath, leaving only fragments to fuel legends. The Minoans vanished, not in conquest by outsiders, but in a swell of ash and earthquake, their keystone of culture buried beneath layers of myth and mud. In the Siberian vastness, the city of Archaim stands as a testament to a forgotten people, possibly a Proto-Indo-European society that flourished around 2000 BCE, a place of circles and windows aligned with celestial phenomena. When archaeologists excavated the site, they found a labyrinth of walls and complex rituals, hinting at an advanced society with a spiritual worldview that vanished as suddenly as it appeared. Was it climate change, invading tribes, or internal collapse? The secrets lie buried beneath centuries of snow and silence, waiting for the right whisker of discovery. The ancient steppes of Central Asia harbor yet another lost realm. The Sogdian city-states, vital nodes on the Silk Road, whose merchants traded silks, spices, and stories. Their texts, inscribed on fragile manuscripts, tell of a vibrant culture infused with Persian, Greek, and Chinese influences. But as caravan routes shifted and empires clashed, Sogdian cities fell into decay. Their warehouses abandoned, their inscriptions decayed into dust. Today, the silent ruins are a reminder that even the most prosperous crossroads are vulnerable to the shifting tides of history. Within the shadowed corridors of Mesopotamia's forgotten east lies the kingdom of Dilmun, an enigma wrapped in myth and buried beneath modern Bahrain. Ancient sailors revered Dilmun as a paradise, a cradle of life and a gateway to the gods. Its rulers, shrouded in legend, traded pearls and copper, fostering connections across the Arabian Gulf. But when the Persian Empire expanded, Dilmun was assimilated, its cities silted over by the Persian Gulf's restless waters, its legacy submerged beneath shifting tides and forgotten stories. And then there is the civilization of Norte Chico, perched along the rugged coast of what is now Peru. This was a society that built monumental architecture over 2 millennia before the rise of the Incas, a complex web of city-states united in their religious and political fervor. Yet their story remains largely untold, their hieroglyphs unreadable, their societal collapse shrouded in mystery. Fueled by marine resources, they thrived in relative isolation, only to vanish into the ocean mists, leaving behind enigmatic pyramids and a legacy less spoken of in the chronicles of history. What binds these kingdoms together is not merely their disappearance, but the enduring enigma they leave behind. Sometimes natural disaster snuffs out a civilization. Other times, conquest or assimilation dissolves their identity into the larger tapestry of future eras. Yet each is a reminder of the fragility of legacy and the fleeting nature of power, jewels in the crown of the ancient world that flickered brightly before fading into obscurity. Their stories flicker like ancient stars in the night sky, silent, brilliant, and just beyond the reach of complete understanding. As we unearth their remnants and sift through the echoes of clay, stone, and legend, we realize that the true story of the vanished kingdoms is not just one of their end, but an ongoing dialogue between the past and the present, a testament to human resilience, curiosity, and the eternal desire to know where we come from. Beneath layers of earth and time, fragments of a world long gone whisper secrets to those willing to listen. In the soil of forgotten cities, relics carved with unfamiliar symbols hint at a tapestry woven from belief, innovation, and struggle. The inscriptions, faint yet persistent, challenge modern minds to decode their meaning, each symbol a fragment of their worldview, their gods, their fears, their hopes. As explorers brush away dust with trembling fingers, they awaken echoes of rituals performed under moonlit skies, ceremonies woven into the very fabric of daily life. These artifacts serve as keys, if only we can interpret their silent language, unlocking the core of what it meant to belong to these ancient civilizations. Somewhere amidst the ruins, sculptures loom, frozen in time, their faces worn, but still conveying a dignity that defies decay. Whether depicting deities, rulers, or mythic beings, these images reveal a layered spirituality that intertwined with governance, art, and community. Ritual offerings, now fragile remnants, suggest that these societies believed in forces beyond the material, forces that demanded appeasement, respect, or perhaps a deep understanding that today remains elusive. The cities themselves stand as testaments to ingenuity. Aqueducts channeling life-sustaining water, intricate drainage systems that managed the chaos of urban growth, towering temples that pierce the skyline, their silhouettes a challenge to the sky. Send your gaze further into the depths of their archives, and you uncover stories of trade and exchange that bridged continents. Portable artifacts tell tales of distant lands, exotic beads, rare metals, complex textiles, reminding us that even in ancient eras, human curiosity knew no bounds. Merchant routes crisscrossed deserts and seas, carrying not only goods, but ideas, beliefs, and technologies that transformed these civilizations with each encounter. In some corners of the globe, monumental projects showcase the collective effort and social organization capable of mobilizing thousands. Massive stone circles, grand palais, sprawling fortifications, all speaking to a society that prioritized legacy and dominance. Yet, beneath this grandeur lay the quiet, often overlooked stories of individuals whose lives intertwined with the fabric of history through everyday acts of perseverance and creativity. Workers who carved the stones, scribes who recorded fleeting events, farmers tending fields amidst unpredictable cycles, families weaving lives into the broader mythos of their culture. These micro-histories remind us that even in their heights and declines, these societies are composed of life lived at a distinctly personal scale. Each story adding a thread to the complex tapestry that we now endeavor to piece together. In examining their downfall, signs scatter across the surface like cryptic messages left by the abandoned. Environmental shifts, such as prolonged droughts or volcanic eruptions, may have disrupted their agriculture and economy, pushing the delicate social fabric towards rupture. Internal strife, driven by inequality or political turmoil, festered beneath the veneer of stability. External invasions, often abrupt and violent, shattered gates and homes, scattering survivors into uncertain exile. Yet even as entire cities fell silent and their inhabitants faded into legend, the knowledge they cultivated persisted beyond their borders. Monasteries, scribal schools, and later civilizations absorbed their wisdom. Potter's marks, mathematical concepts, artistic motifs, ensuring that fragments of their worlds endured, waiting to inspire future generations. In this ongoing excavation of history's depths, every discovery feels like unearthing a mirror. The rise and fall of these civilizations mirror our own, with ambitions, struggles, and the relentless pursuit of meaning. Their stories challenge us to consider what we build today, what footprints we leave behind that might someday be studied by those who come after. Their art and architecture stand as questions asked in enduring stone, inviting us to reflect on what it means to create, to govern, to believe, and to vanish. The faint hum of their legacies amid the ruins reminds us that once, long ago, humans faced the vast unknown and responded with an unyielding drive to understand and endure, echoing into the silent depths of what remains of their haunted, luminous worlds. Beneath the crumbling arches and weathered glyphs, whispers of their unrecorded lives seep through the fissures of history. Fenestrated windows once filtered the sunlight into spaces filled with the scent of spices and burnt offerings, where community and ritual intertwined in a delicate dance of devotion and governance. As centuries unfurled, nature began to reclaim these sacred sites, vines and moss cloaking their grandeur in verdant shrouds, a testament to the relentless march of time and the fragility of human achievement. The stories they carved into stone serve not merely as chronicles, but as questions, mysterious echoes of intentions, fears, and hopes that have long since faded from living memory. These inscriptions might have described celestial events, recounted tales of divine encounters, or recorded deeds that shaping leaders wished to immortalize. Yet in their silent language, They silently beckon us to ponder the purpose behind the symbols, a striving for permanence in a universe destined to change. Within the fragments of pottery, faint traces of their daily routines emerge. Dried grains, broken tools, shards of colored glass, each fragment whispering fragments of existence. Perhaps a child's toy, a ritual vessel, or a merchant's coin. Each tells a story of economy and exchange, of craftsmanship and cultural identity. Archaeologists, like modern scribes of the unseen, piece together these scattered clues to reconstruct a complex mosaic of life, realizing that even in decay, meaning persists. In distant markets, long ago bustling with traders from across continents, exotic silks and rare spices once sparked conversations, threaded with curiosity and commerce. The spread of ideas through these networks wove a tapestry of interconnected worlds, where philosophies, technologies, and art collided and blended. Such cross-pollination seeded innovations that would ripple through generations, often surviving only in hidden codices or scattered artifacts. Their influence endures, echoing through the architecture of later civilizations, in the motifs carved into European cathedrals or the motifs woven into Asian textiles. The rulers who commissioned these structures, often balancing on the knife's edge of divine authority and mortal ambition, crafted legacies intended to secure their immortality. Many believed in their divine right, viewing themselves as appointed by celestial forces, shaping their kingdoms with monolithic temples and monumental palaces that served as both homes and statements. Yet their creations also held a more humble dimension. Communal gatherings, rites of passage, the rituals that cemented social bonds and reinforced the collective memory. As empires fell and regions fractured into new political realities, the continuity of their stories became fragile. Conquerors inscribed new symbols over old, sometimes erasing decades or centuries of tradition, sometimes layering new meanings atop ancient foundations. In this abstracted palimpsest, we find that history is not linear, but a labyrinth of overlapping narratives, each generation rewriting, revising, and sometimes forgetting. For every monument that has survived, there are countless others, swallowed by the soil or submerged beneath modern development. Through the lens of these remnants, we are reminded of the impermanence that underlies all human enterprise, yet also of the resilience of certain impulses. Curiosity, artistry, spiritual longing that refuse to be completely quelled. The faint traces of their presence linger like ghostly fingerprints on the fabric of time, offering us a bridge to a past that feels distant, yet intimately woven into our own stories. The shadows cast by their achievements stretch across centuries, unfurling into our landscapes, our ideologies, our understanding of what it means to forge meaning amid chaos and decay. In their silent testament, we are beckoned to question, to remember, and perhaps to forge anew from the ruins of what was once thought to be eternal. Beneath the surface of their legacies, however, lies a tumult of contradictions, a compendium of triumph and failure woven tightly together in the fabric of history. The architects of their age, be they rulers, philosophers, revolutionaries, or artisans, often seem to dance along a knife's edge, balancing the pursuit of progress with the peril of hubris. Their visions, at times lofty and inspiring, could also be tinged with the shadows of greed, dogma, or cruelty. Yet it is this complex interplay, this tension, that fuels the relentless march of human development. Each monument erected, each idea challenged, each war waged, embedded within them a ripple of change that would echo through the corridors of time, shaping the contours of societies yet to be born. The Enlightenment, for instance, emerges not merely as a celebration of reason, but as a crucible of rebellion against centuries of inherited dogma. Thinkers like Voltaire, Rousseau, and Kant did not simply craft doctrines. They challenged the very notion of authority, be it divine or regal, and fostered seeds of individual liberty and critical thought. Their words, resonant across borders and ages, ignited fires that would fuel revolutions and reforms, transforming monarchies into republics, sacred kings into elected representatives. Yet, these same ideas, once percolated into practice, sometimes birthed unanticipated chaos, as the abstractions of liberty and equality clashed with entrenched social hierarchies and economic realities. Turning to the Industrial Revolution, the narrative shifts from the poetic to the relentless mechanics of progress. Smog-choked cities, clockwork factories, and the shifting balance of labor and capital spell out a tale of monumental achievement and deep dislocation. Factories beckoned with promises of prosperity, endless innovation, and the promise of a brighter future. Yet they also engendered exploitation of workers, of the environment, of the very fabric of community life. The grinding gears of industry, powered by coal and ingenuity, expanded global markets and accelerated urbanization, reshaping human relationships with time and space. The upheavals prompted a reevaluation of rights, dignity, and the nature of work itself, problems that would linger long after the machines cooled. Across the oceans, it was the age of empire and exploration, a story tinted with adventure but shadowed by conquest. Navigators like Columbus and Vasco da Gama, driven by visions of new lands and riches, unlocked continents and cultural exchanges that would forever alter world demographics. Yet beneath the allure of discovery lay conquest and colonization, oft-cloaked in rhetoric of progress, but rooted in the silent violence of displacement, enslavement, and cultural erasure. Indigenous civilizations faced upheaval, their traditions submerged beneath the tide of imperial ambition, yet their stories, languages, and resistance persisted in the margins, whispering truths that refused to be silenced. The 20th century unfurled as a tapestry, woven with the starkest threads of human ingenuity and despair. Two devastating world wars ruptured the veneer of modernity, exposing fault lines of nationalism, ideology, and human cruelty that had seeped beneath civilization's veneer. The horrors of trench warfare, genocides, and nuclear proliferation served as grim reminders that technological mastery must be tempered with moral responsibility. Yet, amidst destruction, hope emerged in the form of civil rights movements, decolonization, and the expansion of human rights, attempts to remake the social order from the rubble of chaos. The Cold War epochs, with their ideological standoff, embodied the paradox of a world united by science and torn apart by suspicion and suspicion-driven pursuits of power. In the midst of all this, cultural shifts, artistic revolutions, scientific breakthroughs, and philosophical upheavals reminded us that the pursuit of meaning is not merely an external quest, but also an interior odyssey. The rise of existentialism, with thinkers like Sartre and Camus, challenged individuals to find authenticity amid absurdity, asserting that meaning is not given, but forged in the crucible of choice and rebellion. Artists like Picasso and Duchamp exploded traditional aesthetics, questioning perception itself, while quantum physics and relativity shattered conventional notions of reality, nudging us towards an understanding that reality may be as fluid and elusive as human hope. The echoes of these moments, be they triumphant or turbulent, serve as a testament to our capacity for resilience and reinvention. They remind us that history is neither linear nor finite, but a swirling eddy of interconnected stories, each weaving into the next. As we stand on the shoulders of giants, gazing forward, the shadows cast by their struggles and victories beckon us to reckon with our own echoes. What will our footprints leave in the sands of time? Will they be echoes of destruction or of renewal? The silence of history's statues, monuments, and documents invites us closer, whispering that in every end, there resides the seed of beginning, and perhaps in our collective memory lies the blueprint of future paths yet to be carved. In the dance of civilizations, each step forward is haunted by the echoes of those who forged pathways through chaos, innovation, and tumult. The ancient world, with its scribes etching cuneiform into clay tablets, knew well the weight of preserving stories. Their inscriptions, layered with symbolism and the wisdom of millennia, serve as silent witnesses to the rise and fall of empires. Across deserts and valleys, monarchs and merchants alike relied on these records to cement their legacies, believing that ink and stone could whisper eternity into the dust. Centuries later, that whisper grew louder with the advent of movable type, transforming mere words into a shared dialogue that transcended borders. The printing press didn't just democratize knowledge, it ignited a fire of questioning, fueling revolutions of thought and faith. With ink spreading like wildfire, ideas once confined to cloistered chambers burst into the streets, challenging dogma and igniting the age of enlightenment. Yet beneath the glow of newfound enlightenment lay the shadow of upheaval. Wars fought over faith, territory, and the very definitions of human rights. As we enter the modern era, technological revolutions propel us further into uncharted territories. The steam engines rumble, and the flickering light of electric lamps erased the darkness of ignorance, but also cast long shadows of industrial exploitation. Cities grew upward and outward, their skylines scarred with both innovation and inequality. Through smoke and steel, waves of progress surged, but not without toll. Species vanished, communities upheaved, and the environmental fabric frayed beneath the weight of human ambition. The 20th century unfurled like a tapestry woven from threads of profound achievement and bitter loss. From the horrors of war that reshaped borders and destinies, to the triumphant moon landing that announced human ingenuity's peak, each event left a mark on the collective consciousness. Yet the scars of conflict lingered, festering in memories and mistrust, whispering that progress often races ahead of reconciliation. The civil rights movements, feminist revolutions, and decolonization efforts echo as reminders that the pursuit of justice is an ongoing saga, written not just with laws, but with acts of courage and defiance. In this ongoing story, the digital revolution rewrites the rules once more. Information flows in torrents, connecting distant corners of the globe and amplifying voices silenced by history's weight. The internet's vast ocean of knowledge both democratizes enlightenment and amplifies discord, exposing webs of misinformation and the fragility of truth. The virtual realm becomes a new battleground for identity, power, and belonging, where communities form and dissolve with a click, and history is rewritten at the speed of a keystroke. Beneath it all, the planet itself bears witness, a fragile vessel of countless ecosystems, each shaped by the imperatives of survival and adaptation. Climate change accelerates this relentless change, threatening to redraw the map of human existence itself. Yet within the turmoil lies resilience. Communities rising to protect their land, inventors seeking cleaner energies, and the curious minds pondering solutions born from despair. The footprints we leave now are as much about undoing damage as they are about pioneering hope. If history teaches anything, it is that each dominion's rise is shadowed by its decline, each innovation shadowed by its potential for misuse. The story is a tapestry woven from threads of hubris and humility, progress and regret. The future remains unwritten, a storied inheritance waiting to be shaped by the collective chases made in moments of clarity and chaos alike. Our footprints, then, are both an act of remembrance and a commitment to forge new pathways, paths that might hope to be lighter, more inclusive, and more mindful of the delicate web we all inhabit. And so, standing on the shoulders of those who came before, we can see that history is not merely a record of what has been, but a mirror reflecting what we choose to become. What patterns will emerge from our actions? Will we learn from the shadows of the past, or will they persist, haunting our corridors of conscience? The whispers in the dust suggest that in every ending, there exists the uncommon seed of rebirth, waiting patiently beneath layers of history's weight. In that quiet promise lies the power to shape futures uncharted, if only we listen closely enough to hear the silent echoes of what has always been and what might still come alive in the infinite choreography of time. As the days stretch into new epochs, the threads of history weave tendrils into the fabric of the present, unfurling connections that often go unnoticed. The silent whispers, buried beneath layers of tradition and turbulence, speak not just of pain or triumph, but of resilience, an unyielding force, nudging civilizations towards transformation. From the relics of ancient civilizations buried beneath deserts, to the inscriptions etched into stone that resist the erosion of millennia, the echoes beckon us to decipher their secrets, to read the storybook of humanity, inked in symbols both forgotten and preserved. In the dance of progress and regression, humanity has repeatedly confronted its reflections in the mirror of history, sometimes recognizing the familiar, other times recoiling at the distortion. Empires have risen on ambitions fueled by hubris, only to crumble beneath the weight of their own excess, leaving behind ruins that stories, myth, and archaeology breathe new life into with each passing generation. These remnants serve as both warnings and beacons, casting shadows where ignorance thrives, yet also illuminating pathways towards understanding if one approaches with patience and curiosity. Technological revolutions, in particular, have punctuated this continuum with disruptive bursts that reshape cultural landscapes, redefine borders, and alter human connectivity. From the earliest inventions, fire, the wheel, the printing press, to the digital revolution's intricate web. Each leap carries the seed of profound societal change. Yet amidst these upheavals, the core question persists. How will we balance innovation with preservation? Will we heed the lessons encrypted within societal upheavals, or will the cycle of chaos and renewal continue its relentless spin? The voices that have shaped history, thinkers, revolutionaries, poets, martyrs, whisper through the corridors of time. Their echoes often muffled, yet persistent. Their words, whether etched into parchment or shouted in the streets, become echoes in the collective consciousness, shaping narratives that influence generations. We find these voices resurfacing in modern struggles for justice, equality, and identity. Proof that beneath the layers of noise and distraction, the human spirit seeks the same truths, the same validation. As societies grapple with the legacies of colonialism, war, and systemic inequities, they increasingly recognize the importance of stories long silenced. In the act of listening, a deliberate, often uncomfortable process, lies the potential to rewrite the script, to recognize the intertwined fates that bind disparate peoples and epochs. Reconciliation, then, is not merely an act of surface-level harmony, but a deep excavation into the root causes of division, illuminating the shared threads of vulnerability and hope that run through all human endeavors. Considering the fluidity of cultural borders and the hybrid identities that emerge across migrations and diasporas, the idea that history is a single, linear narrative begins to fracture. Instead, it reveals itself as a sprawling mosaic, where moments of collision breed innovation and conflict, but also understanding. This decentralization of history encourages us to view the past not as a fixed inheritance, but as a living dialogue, an ongoing conversation that membership is open to all, contingent on the willingness to listen and participate. Time itself appears to mirror this complexity. It isn't a straight line guiding us from past to future, but a spiral, twisting, looping, sometimes spiraling back upon itself, revealing new perspectives with each turn. The shadows cast by previous eras become a lens through which we interpret current challenges, weaving their lessons into the tapestry of now. The future, therefore, isn't a pristine blank canvas, but a mutable space shaped by the echoes of what has come before, if only we recognize their voices amid the cacophony. The paradox of history lies in its dual nature, both relentless in change and steadfast in memory. It beckons us to confront uncomfortable truths while nurturing the resilience to forge ahead. The dust of forgotten civilizations holds within it the potential for rebirth, if we dare to unearth its secrets and tend to the fragile sprouts of insight that emerge. Whether these seeds flourish or wither depends on our collective willingness to heed the silent call of the past, to listen intently to the whispers that never truly fade, but remain woven into the eternal dance of human existence. Beneath layers of time, the remnants of ancient murals and inscribed tablets serve as silent attestations to stories once alive, stories of triumph and tragedy, of gods and mortals, intertwined in a tapestry that spans millennia. The archaeologist's brush, the paleontologist's careful excavation, each stroke and delicately lifted fragment echoes with the possibility of understanding worlds long vanished, yet never truly gone. Their work is a dialogue across ages, a patient negotiation between the present and the echoes of the past that beckon us to decipher their riddles. It is in the careful reconstruction of shattered ceramics, the deciphering of enigmatic symbols, that the human thirst for connection manifests most poignantly. Every fractured shard whispers secrets about trade routes bustling with commerce, about kinship ties that crossed distant borders, about beliefs that shaped entire societies. These fragments, once dismissed as insignificant, reveal the digital-like networks of ancient civilizations, a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. It challenges us to recognize that our predecessors, in their own time, faced dilemmas akin to our own. Climate shifts, resource constraints, social upheavals, and their responses, often inventive and nuanced, mirror our struggles. History often feels like a vast, incomprehensible web. Yet, beneath this complexity lies an intuitive thread, the persistent drive to find meaning amid chaos. The sands of Egypt and the jungles of Central America conceal relics that tell stories of rulers and rebels, of spiritual quests and scientific inquiries that laid foundations for future discoveries. It's astonishing how a simple stone tool, or a fragment of bamboo used as a writing surface, can unlock a worldview entirely different from our own, yet fundamentally human in its aims. Understanding, surviving, connecting. Sometimes, the most potent lessons come from the silent witnesses of tragedy, evidence of upheaval, deliberately buried, perhaps out of fear or reverence. The ash beds of Pompeii preserve a moment frozen in tragedy, a city caught in the fury of nature, a stark reminder of our vulnerability. When exploring such sites, one is reminded how fragile the veneer of civilization can be, how swiftly human history can be interrupted, reshaped by forces beyond control. Yet from these ashes, new narratives rise, stories of resilience and adaptation that continue to inform our collective identity. The echoes of ancient innovations persist in the bones of modern society. The aqueducts of the Romans, the sophisticated drainage of Harappa, the mathematical principles of Arabic scholars. These threads weave into the fabric of contemporary life. They demonstrate that progress is often a mosaic, pieced together over centuries, shaped by a continuous dialogue with the past. As we stand on the shoulders of those who came before, our gaze can drift through the corridors of time, recognizing that each discovery, each conquest, and each cultural flourish is a marker on the same road. It's not just about inheriting knowledge, but about engaging with it, questioning it, building on it anew. We are, after all, the custodians of a vast memory, a collective consciousness shaped by countless generations that faced questions of identity, purpose, and existence. The stories buried beneath layers of earth and tradition beckon us to reflect on the origins of our values, the roots of our beliefs, and the trajectory of our dreams. The past isn't a mere relic to be displayed in museums. It is a living dialogue, a mirror reflecting who we are and who we might become. To unearth what was once considered lost is to recognize the unending resilience of human curiosity and the boundless scope of our shared heritage. It is this perpetual search, winking at eternity, that keeps the flicker of hope alive, illuminating the path forward amid the shadows of history. In the quiet moments after discovery, as dust settles on ancient relics and time pauses for breath, there lies an unspoken dialogue between the past and the present. These artifacts, etched with symbols long forgotten, are not merely remnants, but voice boxes for voices swallowed by the abyss of centuries. They tell stories of civilizations flourishing in the dawn of civilization, of lives woven into the fabric of eternity through art, trade, conquest, and kinship. Every fragment unearthed becomes a puzzle piece in the vast mosaic of human complexity, inviting scholars and dreamers alike to imagine worlds beyond their own. As excavators meticulously peel back layers of earth, they not only reveal history, but also challenge modern notions of progress. These pursuits often evoke a simultaneous sense of humility and awe. Humility, because the more we understand, the clearer it becomes how little we truly know. Awe, because somewhere buried beneath centuries of sediment lie the seeds of human ingenuity, resilience, and sometimes folly. It's a humility that grants us pause, and an awe that urges us onward, hungry for connection. In the midst of these efforts, stories emerge not solely from the grand temples or monumental statues, but from the humble everyday items: a child's toy, a broken vessel, a worn arrowhead. These artifacts whisper of ordinary lives, of local customs and daily routines that don't always make it into textbooks, but which crucially flesh out our understanding of what it meant to be human across different eras. They remind us that history isn't just marked by kings and conquerors, but by farmers, artisans, and wanderers, each contributing threads to a tapestry larger than their individual lives. The challenges faced by archaeologists are emblematic of broader human pursuits. Preservation demands patience, a virtue increasingly rare in a world racing toward fleeting digital impressions. Restoration efforts grapple with balancing authenticity and caring for fragile remnants. Each crack, each faded inscription, a testament to endurance. Sometimes, new discoveries ignite controversy, reopening debates about ownership, cultural identity, and the ethics of excavation. These conversations ripple outward, transcending borders and legal frameworks, forcing a global reckoning with how we treat our shared narratives. Technology, increasingly intertwined with archaeology, acts as both tool and muse. Ground-penetrating radar, carbon dating, 3D modeling. These innovations unlock doors once sealed tight and democratize history itself. They allow not just specialists, but communities worldwide to witness and interpret these revelations, weaving a more inclusive thread into the ongoing story. With each technological leap, the horizon of discovery expands, making that elusive, perfect snapshot of the distant past appear a little clearer, a luminous spark amid the shadows of antiquity. And yet, amid this relentless pursuit of the relics of history, there is also the human element. The passionate individuals driven by curiosity, by the thrill of discovery, by a desire to belong to that ancient story. Their dedication intertwines with the silent voices from the ground, creating a symphony of purpose that echoes through the ages. These are not merely researchers. They are custodians of memory, bridges across epochs, ensuring that the spark of those ancient days remains alive, flickering brighter when touched by understanding and shared reverence. Each artifact recovered, each inscription deciphered, whispers of a universe both familiar and foreign, of hopes, fears, dreams etched into stone and bone. They make palpable the yengil between then and now, as if history itself is reaching out through time, inviting us to listen more intently. As we peel back successive layers of earth, we find ourselves not only uncovering what was lost, but also reconsidering what it means to belong to the ongoing human saga, a narrative that continues undeterred and ever evolving in the shadows and sunlight of our shared heritage. Beneath the careful brush of excavation, artifacts emerge like whispers from centuries past. Parchments brittle with age, delicate ceramics painted with stories of daily life, tools wrought from flint and bronze that once shaped the course of civilization itself. Each piece is a fragment, a node in the vast, tangled web of history that beckons us to assemble the puzzle. As archaeologists delicately sift through layers of sediment, they don't merely uncover relics, they unearth echoes of voices long silenced, stories dormant beneath time's relentless march, waiting to be retold. With every fragment, a new interpretation blooms. A fragment of a scroll, faded yet resilient, hints at philosophies that challenge the paradigms of their age, sparking debates that echo across centuries. A broken sword, once gleaming in the sun, narrates tales of warfare and alliance, pride and betrayal, the ceaseless dance of power and vulnerability. In these remnants, the past is not just preserved, it breathes anew, seeing the world through the eyes of those who bore it. They make us reconsider notions of heroism and atrocity, ideals and compromises, as if history's truth is a mirror, constantly refracting, never fixed. The landscape itself has shifted, shaped by forces invisible yet relentless. Rivers carved new valleys where once there were none. Forests sprouted anew over battlegrounds long abandoned. And cities, their foundations etched in time, lie buried beneath layers of soil and memory. Satellite images and ground-penetrating radar reveal unseen skeletons of ancient metropolises, their outlines traced in shadows and faint impressions, prompting us to reimagine the scope and scale of those once flourishing societies. We are reminded that history is not static. It is a living dialogue between the earth and us. As the narrative unfolds, it brushes past the edges of tradition, nudging us to think beyond linear progress. Cultures that once flourished in isolation now intertwine onto complex tapestries woven from trade routes, migrations, and assimilations. The Silk Road, for example, emerges not merely as a conduit for commodities, but as a vibrant artery of shared knowledge, spiritual exchange, and innovation. Languages collided and fused, creating dialects and scripts that still whisper in wind-blown markets. Musical motifs, culinary techniques, and crafts traveled as fiercely as armies, bridging worlds and forging identities that are layered and multifaceted. In the midst of this, the concept of memory itself takes on a liminal space, a dynamic entity shaped by collective stories and individual recollections. Museums stand as sanctuaries of remembrance, yet also as sites where history is curated, sometimes sanitized, other times challenged. The act of preservation, of choosing what to display and what to conceal, reflects contemporary struggles with identity and narrative authority. Every artifact and plaque becomes a dialogue between past and present, reminding us that what we choose to remember or forget profoundly influences who we are today. Technology, from the printing press to digital archives, has democratized access to history, making it more fluid and participatory. historians now forge fresh pathways, seeking marginalized voices that traditional histories often silenced or overlooked. Oral histories from communities displaced or oppressed come to the fore, adding textures and layers previously hidden beneath dominant narratives. These voices reshape the story, reminding us that history is a living mosaic, ever incomplete, yet eternally insistent on its retelling. Through all this, the human thirst for understanding remains undiminished, an innate curiosity that connects us across epochs. We stand as witnesses, both observers and participants, deciphering symbols, piecing together clues, and sensing the invisible threads that tie us to those who came before. The stories we uncover do not belong solely to scholars or distant ancestors. They echo in our everyday interactions, in the choices we make, in how we honor memory and forge future paths. History, after all, is not merely the record of what has been. It is an ongoing act of creation, a testament to our shared resilience amid chaos and continuity. As we sift through the remnants of that past, we are reminded that history's true power lies in its capacity to shape the present. Every artifact, every whispered legend, is a fragment of a larger mosaic, one that continues to evolve as we add our voices, our stories, our struggles. When we consider the innovations of those who dared to challenge the status quo, we see reflections of our own courage, of the boundless human desire to understand, to improve, and to transcend limitations. It's in the quiet perseverance of communities rebuilding after upheaval, in the cultural tapestries woven from disparate threads, that history's enduring resilience reveals itself. Moreover, history does not speak in monoliths. It hums in diverse dialects, voices both celebrated and silenced. The stories of marginalized peoples, long excluded from mainstream narratives, gain prominence as we listen more carefully, recognizing the depth and richness they add to our collective memory. These voices remind us that history is not a static archive, but a living dialogue, a chorus that demands acknowledgement and respect. The act of uncovering such stories often redefines what we understand about progress and justice, urging us to reevaluate assumptions and confront uncomfortable truths. In the arc of human civilization, each era is marked by moments of upheaval and awakening, times when redistribution of power, shifts in ethos, or technological revolutions rip apart old paradigms and forge new pathways. Yet amid this flux, threads of continuity hold firm, linking the present to the past like unseen veins coursing with collective wisdom. These veins carry knowledge of mistakes made and lessons learned, of resilience in the face of destruction, of hope crystallized in moments of despair. It's in these intertwining patterns that we find both the fragility and strength of the human story, a narrative constantly rewritten, amended, and expanded. As we contemplate the stories yet untold, we recognize that history's true purpose may be to serve as a mirror, reflecting not only how humanity has faltered and flourished, but also illuminating the possibilities that lie ahead. In every struggle for freedom, every act of rebellion, every breakthrough in understanding, we see the seeds of future stories waiting to be written. They remind us that we are part of an ongoing conversation, an unbroken chain of dreams, failures, victories, and aspirations that propel us forward. It is within this continuum that hope finds its voice, whispering that the past is not merely a shadow, but a foundation upon which we can build anew, learning to craft a future mindful of the lessons etched into time's vast tapestry. As the echoes of those lessons ripple through generations, they forge a subtle, yet unbreakable bond between what was and what will be. Humanity's resilience, often masked by the turbulence of upheaval and conflict, emerges in moments of quiet reckoning, when the weight of history presses upon shoulders, yet encourages new pathways. It's in these spaces that the stories of who we are unfold, not as isolated incidents, but as threads woven into an intricate fabric of shared experience. The resilience of communities emerges not only through grand battles or revolutionary upheavals, but also through the smaller acts: an elder's whispered stories around a flickering fire, children's laughter echoing street courtyards, a farmer's careful cultivation of the earth after years of drought. These moments reveal an unspoken dialogue with history, a collective effort to persevere despite the odds, to find meaning amidst chaos. It's as if every small gesture becomes a note in a symphony that spans centuries, shaping the collective consciousness and urging us to remember that hope is often found in persistence rather than immediate victory. Throughout history, cultural exchanges and cross-pollinations offered pauses in the relentless march of conquest and control. Scholars, artists, traders, persons on the fringes of empire carried ideas across borders, transforming entire societies in subtle but profound ways. These exchanges illuminated differing perspectives, challenged dogmas, and expanded the horizon of what was considered possible. They serve as reminders that dialogue, sometimes silent, sometimes boisterous, can be a catalyst for transformation, bridging disparate worlds and allowing us to envision futures that embrace complexity rather than shy away from it. Not all stories are ones of progress. Many are chapters filled with setbacks and dark corners. Yet even in these lies a kind of resilience, a testament to humanity's refusal to capitulate entirely to despair. The scars carved into history are not merely reminders of pain, but are also the groundwork for empathy and understanding. They teach us that hope can be rekindled amid ruins, that wounds, when acknowledged, become sites of growth, rather than merely marks of suffering. It reminds us that failure is often the precursor to ingenuity, that rebirth frequently begins where ashes lie thickest, layered with the accumulated wisdom of those who dared to dream again. Looking through the lens of history becomes an act of active participation, a recognition that the choices made centuries ago ripple forward, shaping the beliefs, struggles, and aspirations of those who stand today. We inherit not only monuments and relics, but also the complex moral fabric woven by countless hands, some gentle, some violent. Our task, perhaps, is to listen more intently to these whispers of the past, allowing their lessons to inform, challenge, and inspire our own stories. In doing so, we honor the unbroken lineage of human courage, ingenuity, and hope, an ongoing testament that no matter how tumultuous their journey, the desire to forge a better tomorrow persists, whispering softly but insistently through the ages. Such whispers echo through the corridors of time, often veiled in the shadows of forgotten voices or muffled by the din of progress. Yet it is in these subtle murmurs, that the true resilience of the human spirit reveals itself. Those quiet boasts of perseverance amid chaos, the faint traces of compassion woven into the fabric of upheaval. History, in its most honest form, is a tapestry of struggle and resilience, a narrative that refuses to be silenced by the passage of centuries. We see it in the delicate carvings of ancient civilizations, in the resilient growth of crops amid barren wastelands, in the enduring traditions carried by those who refuse to see their cultures crumble. Every upheaval, every conquest, every rebellion leaves behind these faint but persistent echoes, reminders that even in despair, humanity's spark endures. The stories of individuals who dared to challenge the oppressive norms, who risked everything for a fragment of justice or liberty, form the brightest threads woven into this tapestry. Their quiet acts of defiance, often overlooked, ignite the flames of future revolutions. From the silent patience of those who endured slavery, to the fiery speeches that mobilized masses, each step forward was underpinned by an unwavering hope that brighter days could emerge from the darkest nights. That hope, unbroken and unyielding, fuels the steady march of progress and serves as a bridge across the chasms of time, connecting us with ancestors who stood at the crossroads of despair and defiance. When we examine the ingenuity embedded in early innovations, be they the forging of tools from stone or the development of complex societal structures, we see a reflection not only of necessity, but of an intrinsic human desire to transcend limitations. These milestones in history remind us that progress is rarely a straight line. It twists and turns, often propelled by setbacks, yet always driven by a common craving for meaning, understanding, and connection. It is in the relentless pursuit of knowledge, the unending curiosity that pushes boundaries, that the legacy of human ingenuity continues to flourish, whispering to each new generation that obstacles are merely opportunities to redefine what is possible. Throughout centuries, amid triumph and tragedy, the core thread remains unchanged. Fierce longing to define oneself and to shape the world in accordance with a shared hope for a future where dignity and purpose reign. These stories are not just about the struggles of long ago, but living testaments that inspire, reminding us that even when the horizon appears clouded, the human capacity for renewal persists. We are heirs to this delicate, unwavering dialogue that spans epochs, a conversation woven through sacrifice and resilience, carried on in the dreams and deeds of those who came before us, urging us to listen carefully and, perhaps, to continue the whispering. And in listening, we find echoes of revolutionaries whispering through cracked liberties, of poets whose ink fought against silence, of farmers whose sweat turned over the earth as an act of quiet rebellion. These voices, once muffled by time and circumstance, surge through the fabric of our existence, reminding us that history isn't merely a ledger of dates and battles, but a living, breathing mosaic of human spirit. The stories are etched onto weathered parchment, carved into stone, woven into the fibers of community traditions and collective memory. They speak to moments when individuals dared to challenge the status quo, to reshape their world from despair into hope, From the fiery addresses of whispered secret meetings in shadowed rooms, to the jubilant cries echoing through streets during moments of victory, it is the human heartbeat that pulses strongest, resilient, relentless, unbreakable. Imagine a moment at dawn, when the beams of sunlight finally pierce through a heavy overcast, illuminating a field where villagers have risked everything to plant crops in defiance of famine's grip. The sun is a silent witness, just as the stories of perseverance are silent witnesses that resonate long after the voices have faded. It is in these silent witnesses, an old tree standing as a sentinel over generations, a child clutching a worn photograph, that the continuity of hope persists. Even when history seems to retreat behind layers of dust and neglect, these silent witnesses uphold the stories that refuse to be forgotten. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of a bustling city, a woman traces her grandmother's recipes, each ingredient a relic of resilience, each kitchen a sanctum of survival. Her hands gesture with reverence, blending history into her everyday life, passing oral traditions to her children and grandchildren. Her story isn't recorded in textbooks or sprawled across solemn monuments, but it pulses in the laughter and tears shared over humble meals and storytelling fires. These quiet acts of cultural preservation are the threads that stitch fragments of history into the fabric of present-day identity. In distant valleys and relentless urban sprawls alike, acts of defiance and kindness interlace. Some loud and fiery, others subtle and understated. A teacher who risks her job to teach reading in a war-torn village, a musician who uses melodies to heal wounded spirits, a worker who stands firm against exploitation, risking reputation but holding on to dignity. These are the enduring sparks of human resilience. Their stories might not always be celebrated on grand stages, but they form the foundation upon which future generations build their understanding of what it means to persevere. Throughout this unfolding dialogue across centuries, an unspoken symphony persists, composed of grief and joy, loss and hope, silence and song. It's a melody that sometimes falters, sometimes soars, but always continues, lifting the human spirit beyond immediate suffering into future possibility. It reminds us that history isn't just something that happened. It's something living that persists, shaped continuously by the choices and dreams of those willing to listen and, in turn, to speak anew. So whispers and shouts ripple through time, charging the air with the essence of human endurance. The stories that echo are not mere relics, but invitations to reflect, to remember, to act. They remind us that no matter how dark the clouds gather, beneath lies an unquenchable flame, fueled by collective memory and unwavering hope. And as we pass the torch of these narratives from one generation to the next, we are called not just to bear witness, but to carry forward that gentle, persistent whisper, urging us onward in the grand, ongoing conversation of humanity. This enduring dialogue, woven through the tapestry of time, carries echoes of resilience that reverberate louder than the silence of history's darkest hours. It is within these stories of revolutionaries who dared to challenge the very fabric of their societies, of everyday people whose quiet acts of courage defied despair, that the true spirit of defiance resides. Those moments, often overlooked, form the silent backbone of collective progress, whispering reminders that change does not always burst forth in thunderclaps, but often emerges from persistent, unseen currents. The resilience shown in the face of adversity becomes a testament carried in the oral traditions and written chronicles of diverse cultures. These narratives serve as benchmarks, shaping our understanding of what it means to stand firm amid chaos, to find hope in seemingly hopeless circumstances, and to forge identities resilient enough to withstand the relentless passage of time. Whether inscribed on fragile papyrus, etched into stone, or carried as digital memory, the stories persist, each one a seed planted in the fertile ground of future generations' consciousness. History's lessons are not merely recountings of conflicts and crises, but celebrations of human ingenuity and spirit. They challenge us to look beyond surface appearances, to delve into the nuanced stories of triumph and tragedy that reflect our shared vulnerability and strength. As the world continues to whirl with upheavals, climate shifts, technological leaps, economic upheavals, the echoes of past perseverance provide a compass, guiding us through turbulent waters. In this ongoing relay, the torch is passed with care, each bearer adding their own flicker to the flame, illuminating paths through obscurity. Sometimes, these pathways run through terrains scarred by war or injustice, yet they always lead toward renewal, toward rebuilding with wisdom gleaned from the ashes. That quiet, persistent hope manifests not solely in grand gestures, but also within small acts, an act of kindness, a stubborn refusal to succumb, a decision to remember rather than forget. Underneath it all, this relentless pursuit of meaning, justice, connection, and understanding continues to stimulate an unquenchable curiosity, a vital force urging humanity to explore beyond what is known, to reconcile with what was lost, and to forge a future rooted in the acknowledgement of past trials. These stories, complex, imperfect, yet beautifully persistent, serve as both shield and mirror. They protect us from despair and reflect the undying truth that within every shadow lies a whisper of light waiting to be rekindled. As we trace the footsteps of those who came before, we begin to see ourselves not as isolated figures, but as part of a grand interwoven fabric. Every narrative contributes to a mosaic of collective identity, an ongoing testament to the indomitable human spirit. It's a narrative that begs us not only to remember, but to act, to carry forward this enduring hope with unwavering resolve. For in that act, in that commitment to keep the stories alive, lies the promise that the unquenchable flame will never truly fade, but burn brighter with each generation that dares to listen, to learn, and to dream anew. Their stories echo through the whispering corridors of time, weaving a tapestry of resilience and rebellion that refuses to be silenced. Each memory, each stolen moment of joy or sorrow, becomes a beacon, illuminating paths once shrouded in darkness. The silent witnesses, those whose voices were overshadowed, find solace in the act of remembrance, transforming silent histories into vibrant narratives that demand recognition. As communities gather to honor these legacies, they forge anew a collective identity rooted in the depths of shared experience. The roots of this heritage stretch far beyond individual lives, intertwining with the very fabric of societies that, despite facing adversity, continue to evolve and reimagine their future. In doing so, they challenge the oppressive weight of forgetfulness, insisting that the past remains a living presence capable of inspiring change, fueling movements forward with the undeniable truth that history's lessons are not relics, but catalysts. Every effort to preserve and amplify these stories, whether through art, education, or activism, reaffirms that the human spirit's capacity for hope endures far beyond the shadows cast by history's darker chapters. And so, this ongoing vigil becomes a testament not only to what was lost, but to what can be reclaimed. Dignity, justice, and the unbreakable desire to forge a world where every voice, no matter how faint, ultimately finds its rightful expression. As communities gathered around fires and shared stories under the night sky, the resilience of those who endured injustice became woven into the very fabric of collective memory. In the face of suppression and silencing, every whispered account and every embroidered tapestry carried the weight of persistence, transforming silent suffering into a powerful testament of resistance. These tales, passed across generations, served as beacons, illuminating pathways toward understanding and empathy amid the darkness. Artists and writers from diverse backgrounds took up the torch, transforming pain into poetry, brushstrokes, and song. Their works became a form of sacred rebellion, reminiscences that refused to fade into obscurity, challenging the narratives shaped by oppressors, and rewriting history from a vantage of truth. Murals appeared on battered walls. Portraits captured resilience in eyes that had once been shadowed by fear. And melodies blended sorrow and hope into a cohesive chorus that refused to be drowned out. Education programs sprouted like wildflowers in cracked concrete, spaces where stories that once teetered on the edge of oblivion found sanctuary and voices found strength. Throughout these efforts, a tapestry of solidarity grew thicker, binding individuals into cross boundaries of race, class, and geography. It became clear that the struggle for collective memory was as much about reclaiming identity as it was about justice. Each remembrance served as a brick in the foundation of a more equitable future, reminding communities that their histories, though marred by suffering, also contained seeds of revolution and renewal. Oral histories became treasured archives, stored in community centers, libraries, and whispered in kitchen conversations, ensuring that no story was deemed insignificant or lost to the passage of time. In academic corridors and international forums, scholars and activists collaborated to translate these narratives into frameworks for policy and change. Statutes and memorials arose in neighborhoods and capitals alike, erected not solely as monuments of sorrow, but as inscriptions of perseverance. They prompted reflection on lessons from the past, on the dangers of apathy, the importance of vigilance, and the power of collective voice to reshape societal norms. Digital mediums expanded the reach of these stories exponentially. Virtual exhibitions showcased photographs, videos, and testimonials, inviting a global audience to witness the depths of human endurance. Social movements galvanized around hashtags and online campaigns, further emphasizing that justice and remembrance are ongoing processes, not static relics. Young activists grew up inheriting these stories, their energy fueled by the awareness that history's darkness could be challenged by the collective luminosity of many voices united in purpose. The narrative persisted through moments of crisis, periods of upheaval where silencing attempts reemerged, but so did the resilience. Underground networks, clandestine publications, and secret gatherings preserved forbidden stories, igniting sparks of rebellion that reframed oppression as a catalyst for change. These acts of defiance underscored a universal truth. Even when the light is dimmed, hope can be kindled in the smallest acts of remembrance and storytelling. Perhaps most inspiring was the acknowledgement that healing was intertwined with storytelling itself. Through shared memories, communities began to knit together fractured identities, restoring dignity and fostering reconciliation. Rituals of memory, annual commemorations, collective silence, or communal feasts became living artifacts of resilience, weaving a fabric that embraced both grief and liberation. They underscored that acknowledgement is a vital act of survival, fostering spaces where scars could be seen and validated without shame. Over the decades, this continuous engagement with history coalesced into a movement, an evolving testament that the human capacity for hope and renewal surpasses even the most brutal attempts to erase or distort the truth. It demonstrated that history, when actively remembered and resiliently retold, transforms from a record of suffering into a beacon guiding future generations away from the darkness and into the promise of collective uplift. Every story held the potential to spark empathy, ignite change, and reaffirm that no act of silence or denial could fully extinguish the luminous thread of human dignity woven through time.